Do we say that both parties are equally guilty? Because when I think about January 6th and pardoning all the people who were involved in that insurrection, or whatever you want to call it.
Insurrection? How you have insurrection with no guns, though?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Hey, what's good, everyone? Dronetek here. Hope you're all having a great weekend. I have a great clip for you today from Bill Maher's show last night. I think we're all pretty used to Bill Maher pushing the J6 insurrection narrative and normally doesn't get a lot of pushback. But last night he had on Texas Congressman Wesley Hunt and he wasn't going to let Bill Maher get away with it. Check this out. I'll give you my thoughts, then stick around for some bonus footage that you just have to see.
Do we say that both parties are equally guilty? Because when I think about January 6th and pardoning all the people who were involved in that insurrection, or whatever you want to call it.
Insurrection? How you have insurrection with no guns, though? That's like having.
Well,
that's like making coffee.
They
with
brought
beans.
tons of guns. It's just
well, there's 400 guns currently in 40 million guns currently in circulation. One person was killed that day. It was Ashley Babbitt. She was a white unarmed person that was killed by a black Capitol police officer. Imagine if that had been the other way around. When I think of an insurrection as a war fighter, or somebody that has seen some real nasty stuff, when I think about that. What people have to understand is that the summer of love leading up to that was something else. We're talking about $2 billion in damage. 200 cities had to go under curfew. 22 people lost their lives. And I understand that January 6th was the Democrats' white rhino, and they were going to run in that. They're going to win the next election. And Donald Trump is still president, last I checked.
Okay, I just want to point out, he said 22 people died. He should have specified that some of those were police who were ambushed at BLM rallies where they were calling for violence against police officers.
Take the politics out of it. I mean, look, they were there for a specific reason, and they attacked the Capitol, a specific place, on a specific day, at a specific moment, which was the exact moment that the votes were being counted, which to me makes it even worse. But okay, let's just say they were there because they were, I don't know, furious about the price of eggs.
Just to point out, there were 120,000 people there at the Capitol that day that marched peacefully that you never hear about. The media never talks about it because when it comes down to it, it was only around 300 or so, maybe around 400 people that were actually destroying property and rioting, while there was another 1,000 that were hunted down like terrorists and charged to the full extent of the law for so-called trespassing on Capitol grounds.
No politics. They were just like, Congress has not done anything about the goddamn price of eggs, and we're going to, I don't care how many cops get hurt, would it be any different?
What? Well, again, we were talking about...
Is it just okay because it was defending Trump?
Let me just say real quick again here that the reason that there's a big difference between these two things is that the rioters through the summer of love, as he's calling it, that really went from when Trump was elected during his inauguration, then didn't stop until Biden took over, resulted in around 60,000 cops injured, dozens dead, and most charges against the rioters and looters were all dropped by, I'm assuming, Democrat DAs. And you can check that out. There were mass dropping of charges. And so that's why a lot of us are upset about the way they treat J6, because while I don't think that the J6ers who attacked police should have been pardoned, what we did see was rioters, Democrat left-wing rioters, for over the course of years, even though they were attacking police, still having their charges dropped. And so that was a two-tiered system. And so for Bill Maher to sit here and act holier than thou, like J6 is some big special event, it was 5 hours, while the Democrats and left rioted for years on end.
This wasn't necessarily about defending Trump.
Okay, but what if it was over 100 cops getting hurt and people taking over a building over the price of eggs?
Now you're talking about the summer of love.
No.
Right.
That's when people were actually really getting hurt. Well, that's when 22 people died. That's when we watched mayhem in our streets. And even just a couple weeks ago here in LA, we were watching people throw pieces of concrete at law enforcement officers and cars burning in the street in our cities.
Right. And that was just brilliant. Guys like Maher, he says some things lately that are actually pretty smart. But the fact is, he's still completely misled about January 6th. While it was bad, I'm not saying it was good, and I do think that the people who attacked police should not have been pardoned. Still, it happened because we all know that charges against Democrat rioters never even, never even came against them, so they didn't even need to be pardoned. And that's a two-tier system, so if that's a standard, then that's the standard. But a guy like Bill Maher, he doesn't know these things. And while Wesley Hunt did a good job here, he still wasn't stating all the facts that we know, right? Like I was just talking about, all the cops that were ambushed and killed. And really, the Democrats and media at the time were cheering that on. The fact is, January 6th was a minor riot. Yes, it was bad. I didn't like it, but it has been propagandized for years on end, while the years worth of Democrat riots that resulted in way more damage, more people hurt, more people killed, has been largely memory hold, to the point that Bill Maher, he doesn't talk about it, and when you bring it up, he acts like you're an alien and he's never heard of this before. Okay, so I promised you some bonus footage from later in Bill Maher's show. You might remember that before the Army parade that's celebrating their anniversary, that the media and Democrats were saying that this was an authoritarian dictator move by Donald Trump, and you only see these sorts of things in third world countries ran by dictators, and it was just proof that Donald Trump is literally Hitler. Well, he had the parade, and as most people know, it ended up being pretty much what I predicted, something like an air show, or if you've ever been to these police community outreach things where they bring lots of equipment and you can, they're driving it around, some of it, and you can get in, check out some of the equipment. That's exactly what this was. It was a very, just a very wholesome sort of thing. And the soldiers that were out there marching were just, they weren't marching like goose stepping, right? And that's what the media was expecting. So, of course, now the issue is that they weren't goose stepping. Seriously, like now that they're mad that because he had a fascist parade as they see it, that it should have actually looked fascist. So check this out and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Like they did with the parade. Like, do I think it was a good idea to have a parade? No, but if you're going to do it, if you're going to have a vaguely fascist parade, do it right.
Makes it vaguely fascist.
To offer another opinion from our side of this whole thing, and that is, it was the 250th birthday of our United States Army.
Right.
As I said, thank you very much. And somebody that served this nation as an Apache pilot, again, my brother and sister going to West Point, 6 years of military service, mostly in the Army. My great-great-grandfather fought in the Civil War. And you know what I saw? I saw the president salute the Corps of Cadets as they walked past him. I watched him salute the 75th Ranger Regiment as they walked past him. I sat there and watched the fireworks behind the Washington Monument. And you know what I thought? Damn, that's absolutely outstanding. And it's far better than Joe Biden checking his watch when bodies were being returned to Dover.
Okay, yeah, wait, there you go. Boom.
Hold on. This is a contrast that we were talking about and why you lost, because we are talking about a man that's talking about patriotism. And in parades like that, when I was growing up, I served because I used to go to these parades and watch my dad participate in them. I saw the Black Hawks landing. I visited my sister at West Point.
It's
and I said,
nothing
my
new.
God, I want to serve this country too. And so the dichotomy of what we're seeing with President Trump and his patriotism, saluting the flag, actually making an effort. And whether you like it or agree with the execution, the effort is there. That's all we want to see.
Execution does matter.
Execution does matter. Well, apparently they wanted him to execute it like an actual authoritarian dictatorship military parade. But that's not the way we do it. We have air shows. Air shows are a demonstration of our power, correct? But we do it in this sort of wholesome festival, fair sort of atmosphere. And that's exactly what this Army parade was. It didn't turn out at all like the media and Democrats predicted. And so, of course, now they're changing their position on a dime. And it actually should have been authoritarian because that would have made it look more competent, I guess. All right, folks, let me know what you all think in the comments. And if you're still here, might as well hit that like button and subscribe. I do post on a regular basis, so make sure to keep checking back for more. Thanks a lot.